Hey, what up, guys? So, Jrpgs, they are well known for their stories, the character progression, as well as the variety of different characters that you get to meet along the way, the very beautiful music and all that. But there is one aspect of Jrpgs that I really enjoy that I don't really see a whole lot of people talk about per se. There are some people out there that do talk about combat in JRPGs. And today I chose 10 games from my collection that have some of the best combat that I have ever experienced. And I want to share with those. Well, I want to share those combat systems with you guys, these 10 games right here from my collection, ranging from like PlayStation 2 all the way up to PlayStation 5. And surprisingly, when I was going through selecting games for this video, I was surprised by myself that there's not that many action RPGs out there that have like a unique combat system. Like, a lot of them are just generic hack and slash type RPGs, like the Ease games, Nier Replicant, Nier Automata. So the few that I did select had something that kind of made them stand out a bit, but there's also some turn-based and some strategy RPGs mixed in there. So before I dive into these 10 games, and I'm just going to talk about these are not going to be in any kind of order whatsoever. I'm just going to talk about them as I go and just go a little bit into their combat. Not really going to be talking about the story. I've talked about these games plenty of times before here on my channel. So with that, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and let's talk about JRPG combat. I want to start this off by talking about one of the best turn-based RPGs that I have ever played. I played it on the PlayStation Vita. It's available on every single console, and that is Persona 4 Golden. Yes, I'm starting off with a banger here. I love the combat in Persona. It's almost like the press turn combat system from the SMT games, but it's done different here in the Persona games. Now, you have your 4 main party members that you can take into combat, and they each have like their persona, with the main character being able to summon multiple different personas. So you got your summons, your persona that you are able to use like magic skills and defensive skills, attack skills, and all that. And then you just have like your normal attack. You can use items and all that. But what makes this really fun is that you get to exploit enemy weaknesses. If your persona has a skill that can exploit an enemy's weakness and down them all the enemies, you are able to unleash an all-out attack. So all the party members are able to join in and do like some devastating attacks on the enemies for huge damage and all that. And it's very satisfying. I love Persona's turn-based combat. It is some of the best, and it's made me start to really enjoy turn-based combat as a whole. There's a lot of turn-based games that I'm just really surprised with how the combat is, and Persona 4 Golden stands out as one of the best out there. I don't really know what else I can really say without doing like a full deep dive on the combat. It's just very satisfying. It's like the SMT press turn combat system, but I just feel like it does it a little bit better. Now, Persona 5 was like the first Persona game that I ever played, and its combat is really fun. You are also able to do like a baton pass. In Persona 5, there's also weapons, like guns that the characters use that also add a little bit of a strategic edge to it. But Persona 4 Golden, I love the story, I love the characters, and I absolutely love the combat, being able to exploit enemy weaknesses and down them all, and then also on top of that, in Persona 4 Golden, you also have like follow-up moves that some of your other party members can join in on the action. They'll be like, hey, I want to do this like follow-up move and do a follow-up attack. So there's like special attacks that can follow up like that, and then also when you do down an enemy, you are able to gain like an extra move and all that. So it's really fun. And next up, I want to talk about this game here. Now, this is a game that you will also see in an upcoming pickups video. I did get this, but Project Cross Zone here on the Nintendo 3DS. This is a very special game to me. It is the very first Jrpg I ever really got into. This is a strategy RPG with a very unique combat system. When you go into combat, it is very combo heavy. You have all these different attacks that you do eventually like unlock all the way up to where you can do, where you have like 5 different move sets for your paired units, and then you can summon in a solo unit. There are some characters that they don't have a partner, so they are considered solo units, and you can team them up with a paired unit, so it's like 2 characters that are partners in the game. There's like well over 100 different characters in this, and you can mix and match the solo units with the pair units. Now, the paired units are kind of like set in stone. You can't really like mix and match the different characters. They have characters from Street Fighter, Devil May Cry, Mega Man, Xenosaga, Shining Force, Exa, as well as Virtua Fighter, Valkyria Chronicles, Tales of Vesperia, Tekken, Resident Evil. It's a crossover of Capcom, Sega, and Bandai Namco. They even have like some obscure characters like Valkyrie from The Legend of Valkyrie, and then you also have like Arthur from Ghosts and Goblins. You have the Dot Hack with Kite and Black Rose, and you also have like Ooh La La from Space Channel 5. Now, when you go into the combat, you can like do all these different moves. You can combo them in order to deal like heavy damage and all that. And then you got like this XP gauge that once it reaches 100, when you press Y, you're able to unleash a very flashy special attack that does a lot of damage to your enemies. And some of the enemies do have like a barrier that you do have to break through in order to deal damage. And then if you're with it, when on the grid outside of combat, if you are close to like an ally pair unit, you are able to take them into battle as well and be able to utilize them, and it's a lot of fun. I really love Project Cross Zone's kind of like hybrid fighting tactical combat system. I don't really know exactly what you would call it per se. All I know is that it's a lot of fun doing all these different combo moves and doing mass damage on the enemies. So then, next up, this is one of the most unique action RPGs that I ever played. This is Summon Night Twin Age. Now, I have talked about this on my channel here before, and the combat is what really made it stand out. It is a isometric hack and slash action RPG, but it's all done with the stylus. You control the characters, you move them around. You have 3 characters in your party. Only one of them is interchangeable. The other 2 have to be the 2 main characters, Aldo and Reha. And they also have these palettes on the side where you can assign different skills as well as items that you get to use. Now, when you're using the skills, you kind of go invincible for a few seconds while you are gearing up at that skill, which a lot of them for Reha are like magic based, and with Aldo he uses like swords and axes and spears, so his skills are going to be more physical based, and that invincibility can also come into play when going up against some tougher enemies. So you won't be able to really take any damage, and then you get to unleash more damage. So it's kind of a good payoff. Get a little bit of invincibility in order to deal out massive damage, and as well as like dodge an enemy attack. And like I said, everything's all done with the stylus. So you use the touchscreen on your DS to move your characters around, and you tap on the enemies in order to unleash like auto attacks. So it does have like auto attacking, kind of like in Xenoblade, which kind of deserves an honorable mention because I do like the combat in Xenoblade, but I want to save that for a future video because I might do another follow-up because there are so many great Jrpgs out there with some really unique combat, like One Piece Odyssey here. This is another turn-based RPG. This was done by Ilka and published by Bandai Namco. Now Ilka also did like some Pokemon remakes, but this has some art style to it that kind of makes it feel like Dragon Quest. But what makes this game kind of stand out with its combat is that it is very... It has a very unique turn-based combat system where you have like these different situations that will pop up where like, hey, defeat a certain enemy within a certain move and within a certain amount of turns in order to gain like a bonus in battle, or defeat this boss with only this character and you get like an EXP bonus, that. And your characters are like split up on the battlefield into like different areas, and they are able to like swap over between these areas in order to attack enemies that are attacking other party members and all that. So it kind of flips the whole generic turn-based formula on its head a little bit, and it makes it feel very fresh. There's also a speed up mechanic, so you can make the battles go by even faster, which is what I did most of my time playing it, because turn-based combat can be a little bit slow. It's very methodical, and you got very strategic. You got to think about what your moves need to be, if they are going to be offensive or defensive, or if you're going to heal. And One Piece Odyssey just blends all of that and makes it a little bit more fast-paced, and I really liked about that. And I like the concept of having like these different situation, like in battle like missions in order to do, and they're very random. You can go through like 20 different battles and not have a single one of these like little side missions pop up. There's a very specific name for the combat system in One Piece Odyssey, and I'm drawing a blank on it right now, so I might toss it up on the screen post-edit. But it's a really fun combat system. Even if you're not a fan of the One Piece anime, I do highly recommend playing this game just for the combat alone. It is really fun. Also, you could wind up being a fan of One Piece by the end of it. And speaking of like Bandai Namco, my next RPG is another Bandai Namco game. This is Scarlet Nexus, a post-apocalyptic action RPG. That it is a hack and slash RPG at its very core, but what makes this unique is that your party members are all controlled by AI, but you have the ability to be able to use their powers within battle. So the two main characters, Yuito Sumeragi and Tasane Randall, they have psychokinesis abilities, and you're able to use your psychokinetic abilities in order to like lift up objects and throw them at enemies and all that. And with Yuito, which is who I played as during my first playthrough, he's also able to like use his psychokinetic abilities with his sword. And then on top of that, you are able to like borrow other kinetic abilities from your party members, like pyrokinesis, electrokinesis. One party member is able to like duplicate herself, one is able to go really fast, one can turn invisible, one can become like a walking tank and just take damage and be able to deal out heavy amounts of damage. And it is a lot of fun being able to mix and match these different abilities. And then you're also able to go into like a brain punk mode and just be able to like go super fast and take out enemies like crazy and have all these super special flashy abilities. And it just made Scarlet Nexus feel very unique. This game does not get as much love as it deserves. This is one of the best action RPGs that I've ever played by Bandai Namco. And speaking of action RPGs by Bandai Namco, my next choice, and I couldn't leave a Tales game out of this video. I love the Tales series. It's the characters, the world building, and the gameplay that really had me hooked. I love the linear motion battle system. It's a unique action, real-time combat system that was introduced from the very first Tales game with Tales of Phantasia, where it was all side-scrolling and it had a bit of like a fighting game feel to it. And over time, it has been enhanced upon with like Tales of the Abyss and Tales of Symphonia, adding in like a three-dimensional feel to it. Now, Tales of the Abyss is one of my favorite games of all time. It has the flex range linear motion battle system, and I really enjoyed that. But out of all the Tales games that I played, my favorite of the linear motion battle systems, like mini variants, is the one found in Tales of Grace's F Remastered. I want to say, well, I don't remember exactly what the actual name of the version of the linear motion battle system that is found in this, but it had one of the best combat systems in the entire Tales series. This is a fan favorite for a reason. It's mainly to do with the combat, the battle system that is found in this game that a lot of people really enjoyed. And I ended up really liking it a lot. And it is... So, it is like very free roaming, being able to like do to hack and slash at your enemies and do like combos and all that, and unleash different arts, which are your skills that you get to use. And I could go and make an entire video all in and of itself of the linear motion battle system, and who knows, I might do. But if you haven't played any of the Tales games, I highly recommend Tales of Grace's F Remastered. It is available on pretty much every single console, PS4, PS5, Xbox, and all that, and it has one of the best combat systems that I've ever experienced. So, next up is pretty much all turn-based games. So, I want to go through these pretty quick because I have talked about its combat, well, each of these games' combat in whole in like other videos. So starting off with Xenosaga Episode 3, which has one of the best turn-based combat systems that I have ever played. It is also a mix of an of a mech game. It has mech turn-based combat as well, so you get to fight on foot as well as in the ES units, and it is way better than the combat in Xenosaga Episode 2. That is just very slow. Now, it is all based on a break system as well as a boost system, so the more attacks you do, you're able to build up this boost gauge, and then you also have a break gauge on the enemies, and certain attacks are able to increase that break gauge, and when the enemy is broken, they are susceptible to mass amounts of damage, and just they won't be able to attack you, but you are able to just lay the smackdown on them. And with the boost gauge, you are also able to like boost a character so they are able to take extra turns, and when set up right, you are able to just constantly be attacking enemies non-stop without them ever being able to get a move in, and turning the tide of battle over in your favor. And it was just a lot of fun abusing that in Xenosaga Episode 3, because also you are able to use some of your boost gauge in order to unleash devastating special attacks, and it was just a lot of fun. And then I also cannot leave out Wild Arms 5, which I've also had a full video dedicated on this game's battle system. It's the hex grid battle system that was featured in Wild Arms 4, but it's more refined. You also have a bit of a gauge that fills up that you can use to unleash special attacks, or be able to take like an extra turn using the skill called Intrude, which was a bit more abusable in Wild Arms 4. It is just a lot of fun. I do highly recommend Wild Arms 4 and 5. The hex grid battle system does kind of introduce a more strategic battle system into the Wild Arms series. There are these waypoints on the battlefield that have elements tied to them, and with your character standing on them, they are able to harness that element and be able to unleash more damage onto certain enemies that may be weak to that element. There are also some enemies that will like absorb those attacks, so you got to be very careful about that. And then also couldn't leave out Artanelco 2 Melody of Metafalca, the Vanguard battle system that was introduced in the first game, has now been like completely overhauled. I think it's called the Vanguard battle system only in this game. So you have two characters that act as your Vanguard units. You have an attack phase and a defense phase, and in this game you have up to 2 Vanguards and 2 Raventails, who are known as Song Maidens, and they are your magic users in the game. They are able to unleash like defensive, offensive magic, buff and debuff enemies in your party and all that. And there's also the harmonics that go into play, so when your characters are in sync with each other, and what I mean by that is like your Vanguard units are in sync with the Raventails, they are able to like level up their attacks and be able to dish out more damage, and it's very fast paced. You can unleash as many attacks on the enemies as you can during the attack phase, and then the defense phase, the enemies get to attack you, and then you have to use button presses, timed button presses in order to like negate a lot of the damage and protect the Raventails. And even during the defense phase, their magic is still building up. There's a meter that constantly grows throughout battle, and then at some point when you feel like that meter is high enough, you can unleash that magic ability and either like do a lot of healing or defensive moves, or if it's an offensive magic, you can deal mass damage on the enemy. And it is a lot of fun. It's very fast paced. It's one of my all-time favorite turn-based combat systems that I've ever experienced, and it's a lot of fun. And there's also a way where you are able to kind of like abuse the magic system and just unleash magic skills after magic skills, which can be kind of required late in the game because there is a boss that can break the game in a way where you get soft locked out of it. So fair warning when playing Artinoco 2, but it is a game that I feel like is highly worth it. I love it. It's one of the best games that I've ever played. So then, moving on to the last game here, and this is Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. This is another game where I did make a video. Not sure if I still have it up. I probably took it down, but I went over the combat in this game. It is very similar to Yakuza Like a Dragon, which was the game that preceded this. But now this time the position of your characters, you're able to like freely move them around when it's their turn to move, and it's within a field of, well, they have like a limited space that you're able to move around, but the positioning of your characters in relation to where the enemies are positioned, because they're also moving around, does play a factor, and your whatever your attack is being able to like successfully hit the enemy, or if they wind up dodging it, or if your move does miss. Now there's a unique feature where you are able to build up this meter that's like in the shape of the infinity symbol and be able to do like team up attacks. And then Kazuma Kiryu, who's one of the main characters in this game, he also has a special ability where he's able to turn the battle into a real-time battle and just lay the smack down on enemies and just keep punching at them with all of his different fighting styles. So they kind of blended the turn-based combat from the previous game with a little bit of real-time combat from the previous Yakuza games, where before it went into a turn-based RPG. And it is just a lot of fun. So that is it. Those are the 10 games that I wanted to talk about. I could have gone a little bit more in depth because these games combat definitely deserve a bit more. I just wanted to briefly cover them because I really love the combat in these games. That's it. Those are 10 Jrpgs with some of the best combat that I've ever played. I definitely want to do a follow-up on this because there's a lot of Jrpgs out there that have some really great combat that I wanted to cover in this, as well as some ones that I haven't even really discovered yet. There's different varieties in combat that, like, you have your generic strategy RPGs, your generic turn-based, your generic action hack and slash RPGs, but I felt like these 10 games right here have combat that makes them stand out above the rest, and just was really enjoyable for me and made the experience of the game a lot more enjoyable. So with that, I'm Metro Otaku Gamer again, and I will see you guys in the next video. I really hope you guys enjoyed me talking about Jrpg combat. I know it went on for a little bit long, but that's just kind of how it is sometimes. So with that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.